Hey everyone, I just want to do a quick update on AMC. I think it was last Wednesday when I did one, and I was a little bit hesitant about the coming move on AMC, um, just because we've been kind of fooled before. But I ended up switching and going long right about at this $20 level. I realized that it was very likely not going to come back down, and that it was in fact going to rip back up, and it was very much similar to this move right in here um, back in January. So I think it's actually a combination of January, but what I will comment about today. So we had a big halt right at open, and based on there's a lot of stuff I found on Reddit. There's really good information. People had posted pictures from the tape. There's a lot of calls that brokers were reporting that were in the money, very high strike calls, over $280 in GME. Um, I personally lost out on $14,000 on that halt, so that really that sucked. Um, a lot of other people lost a lot more money than I did, but it is what it is. I will say that there was lots of stuff that was probably going on, but I think that they see. Here's the thing about the market makers that own all the volume. They can see all the retail volume coming in ahead of time. They know all of the past history of all the volumes that based on current price levels and all the different technicals, they have it all mapped out. So and I'll just give you an opinion on this. What I think actually happened here, if we go to the minute, we we have right here, I think what this is, this spike up here to that 30. Yeah, it was a little bit. I'll have to look. A little over $34, $35. It looked like it was going to keep going, but I think what actually happened is somewhere in here they knew, because I've seen them do this. You get these rampant spikes and then this flash down and then the same garbage here. We've seen this numerous times. We saw it when it went to $77 in June. They threw everything they could at it to try to bury the stock down, because what's coming in with all these indicators, well, there's lots and lots of technical indicators that are signaling buy on AMC right now. So everything is in this buy mode. I think they already knew about this algo that was going to buy here, or this was an individual that I kind of doubt that that was an individual. I really do. The volume, if you measure the volume, it's pretty dismal. Um, it's 440,000. Like, I mean, gee. Uh, I mean, somebody that has direct market access could affect the tape in that way, but then it's not like they would have immediately, unless they had their own algorithm to sell immediately and do the flip side, who's going to know exactly how to make it hammer down, you know. So to me, they already knew the algorithm was going to come out and buy a certain portion. So what it does when they get it to halt on the downside, you see all this, we had like a good 5 minute, I think it was at least 5 minutes halt. The market makers and all these other really will just, the market makers will use that time during the halt to readjust their positions, and if they're over leveraged, they will use that time to play games with calls, try to, I mean, they will flush shares. So if somebody bought here, they will use that to flush and grab up liquidity, um, so that they can use that selling pressure to cover a small amount of a short position. It really wasn't much, but they can use that. They can route on the sell side, they can route the sells through a dark pool. They did that back in January when the buy button was removed. They halted the stock, and when nobody could buy the stock, yeah, so we had the stock got halted, and we had issues where we couldn't buy. So with all of that going on, they used that time to readjust their positions. That was a well-known thing that they did back then, and I think that's exactly what they did here. And then they played games with the volume, um, and pretty much put a rest to any of the algos that were going to try to run up higher, and any issues with it, liquidity or margin calls or anything that was going to happen beyond this point. They now were just put a damper on it, because obviously they halted it lower than where did it? Yeah, open up a point, almost a point lower. And that point might be the difference between an algorithm kicking in or selling off. And I think that's what they did. I think that they already knew about this, I'll say that. So to me, yeah, this is 100% planned, coordinated, but they already knew about it. The other thing interesting I will say, though, is you have something very similar to that event here on the timeline, and other people have commented on this. A very similar spike on literally the same. If we're in, regardless if we're in the same fractal or not, I don't think it matters. The supercomputer's algorithm is trading the same way. It is shaping the volume, shaping the price action the same way. The algos are still wanting to trade the same way. We have very similar price action during that day. I mean, it is very similar. Um, and therefore, I'm also looking at a very similar price action for tomorrow, something like this. I think so. June 1st. Okay, that's where June 1st ends. So this would be, like a Wednesday, right up there at about 38 bucks, and start out. Yeah, I mean that would make sense. Of course, this started out quite a bit lower, but looks like the algorithm is literally just rinse and repeating this thing. So if that is the case, there was something very similar to that incident, which means to me that they had the same issue back then as they did now. We just don't, maybe we don't have the screenshots from all the games that they played back then, because really the stock running up this high, if they are massive, all their short positions are between $2 and $5, they're having to play games with their liquidity and their margin. So they do stupid stuff like this, and then when they're finally ready to rip it up, and all the orders that they routed from buy and they held them into the dark pool, then they'll switch them up and finally let them come out later. Those are retail orders, by the way. Um, you know, they finally have to send those out to the market and be bought again. Um, so that leads me to believe that they did know about this spike here, and so this was all entirely planned. This was not, they were not unaware of this spike. This wasn't a knee-jerk reaction, and they know how to get it to halt. They just let it come down to a certain point below where it started, and then they get it to halt. So they know how to do this stuff. It's not it's just a matter of programming it in. The other thing that I will notice, I'm obviously I'm looking forward to the price action coming in the coming week. and into next week, because obviously if we get more and more options that go in the money, they're going to have to rewrite strikes. A lot of the strikes over the next couple of months. Some of them have 145, so a lot of them are tapped out at $45 or $44. They're not properly hedged for that. I saw some info on that. For April, they're only hedged to like $30. So they're gonna be, we get over that, then you'll start to see more gamma ramp. And obviously we haven't seen any kind of short squeeze because nobody's actually covered and tried to close out any of their positions. So um, either way, I'm not. These halts are just, they really piss you off. But I mean, I'm here to till the end of the road. So I kind of, you just take it on the chin, and that's it. Um, it's just more games because I think we've been playing a zombie game with these guys for a long time. Like they've been upside down on this trade. At least some of these guys have been upside down. I think JP Morgan just pulled a big short position out in this area, and they knew what the algo was going to do. That's the thing. They know ahead of time exactly what this algorithm's going to do. It's just a rinse and repeat. There's very little randomness to it, which is just yeah. And the other interesting thing is all the levels are the same from June till now. All the jitters at $20, the jitters at $25, all the jitters at $29. And then when you get up to that 32, that 33 area, then things want to buy. I mean, you could see it wants to buy, especially at 35. From 35 up to around 43, yeah. I mean, and even if we look like a VPVR map, there's a huge air gap here up to that $38 level. So, which is a volume by price. Basically, the price will want to jump from 30, 31, $32 up to 38, and it can move. It has a lot of freedom to move in that range. Yeah, options chains loaded. I just, things are getting tight on the street, and they're gonna fight this thing as long as they can. But I don't know why they're doing that, because they're literally creating their own demise. I mean, the longer they fight this, they're going to end up strangling themselves, and that's why I'm not upset about this, because they're their own worst enemy at this point. All these halts and all this stuff literally resets the RSI, it resets the stock and lets it rip back up again. I mean, and then they're just blowing away all their customers' money. Like, this is not their money. This is somebody else's money, and they're just pissing it away. I mean, um, yeah, they're gonna, when they get done with this, they're gonna be penniless. I'll tell you that, absolutely penniless, and they did it themselves. I I don't think anybody would have been this upset and this hardened if they had just let it rip back up here back in January and just taken their licks. Then people would have, honestly, people back in January of 21 would have probably sold at $100 and the whole thing would have been over and they could have walked away. But yeah, they would have been obliterated, but nobody would have had all the information that we have. Nobody would have known. It would have been like, oh yeah, it's squeezed, and yeah. But now they're gonna bleed themselves dry by doing this, and all I have to do is sit here and sit on my hands during the day so I don't do anything stupid and just watch. It's amazing. Um, Either way, guys, I'm pretty stoked. I'm here for the end of the road, and see what tomorrow brings. I'm pumped. See you guys.